Crypto Market News, and I'm here with Virginia Cram Martos. In which spheres does the United Nations use blockchain nowadays?
I worked for them for 24 years until the beginning of 2017, so I can't really speak on their behalf. But to my knowledge, one of the important areas is in refugee relief, to give identities to refugees. And I know that there's also a group in New York of different UN agencies that gets together regularly to discuss the use of blockchain, and in particular in projects and in work with refugees and in emergency situations. Well, when I was working in the United Nations, I was working primarily on standards. So standards for information technology, and this is where I became interested in blockchain. And I have been the project leader for a white paper as a pro bono expert for the last year, looking at different uses of blockchain for the facilitation of trade, because that's one of the areas that the UN is very active in, is working to help countries facilitate trade. And the other area is looking at what are the standards that the UN is developing under the United Nations Center for Trade Facilitation and Electronic Business that could be used in blockchain. For example, they have an extensive set of data definitions, including the formats of the data for over 12,000 kinds of data that are used in government to business and business to business communications. And we believe that those could be used in blockchain and blockchain databases to make them more interoperable, to help them exchange data at the level of the meaning of the data.
What do you currently do?
Well, I'm now the president and CEO of a company called Triangularity, which is a social impact company that looks to encourage and support the use of innovation and innovative technologies, including blockchain, to support economic development and trade, in particular in developing countries and in transition economies.
What are the most recent projects and what are the achievements so far?
The most recent projects that I've been working on are related to business process analysis. So it's in some ways kind of similar to looking at systems in order to develop computer systems. It's the first step where you have to map every piece of data and every piece of information from the time a product leaves the exporter to when it arrives in the importer. And I've been working with the countries in Southeast Europe and with donors who are supporting them to help define what are all those steps and what are all the data that's being exchanged, so then they can look at how to simplify the procedures, and after they've simplified them, automate them. Some organizations do some research into blockchain uses and blockchain use cases, be it in trade, be it in sort of other social areas, renewable energy, circular economy, etc.
What are the latest researches?
Well, this is more research into what is being done by different companies. For example, in the energy area or in smart cities, you have microgrids, which I think is a very important developing use of blockchain to allow small groups of people or communities, for example, in remote places in Africa, to have electricity and to have one solar grid that's then shared between families, and it keeps the accounting, and it does it at a level with very little paperwork so that it's affordable. Take another example, blockchain that's being used to support the Sustainable Development Goals, and that's in Kenya, where they issued a government bond. But they took one government bond, which usually they sell, in denominations of 100,000, and they broke it up into $30 pieces that then they could sell using blockchain. And because the blockchain has a smart contract in it, it will pay them interest on a monthly basis. And they can sell it, they can use it to save for their children's education or for income. And they can do it, and that can be done in an affordable way because the blockchain does it automatically. Whereas if you were doing it with paper and in the normal way that these kind of bond sales are managed, it would be just incredibly expensive and not possible.
Okay, thank you so much for your time,
welcome.
Virginia. It's been a pleasure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.